Did you see what Brandon Washington said about, he was saying that film shooters should feel privileged that they're shooting on film, or there's like, there's a certain privilege to choose shooting on film. I don't understand what he was trying to say. Like, I've been trying to wrap my mind around that. There's a part of me that feels like, is he using the right word? Like I think I understand what he's trying to say, but I feel like the word privilege is the wrong word almost. Is he saying that because of how expensive it is? Like, to shoot film, because it's very expensive, right? So to me, as someone that shoots film, not all the time, but very often, I'm very economically aware that every photo is about $1.25, easily, depending on if you got to push or pull, if you want high-res scans. But I would argue that it is, well, first of all, it's a very aesthetic choice, right? People aren't shooting on film just to be cool. I mean, I'm sure those circles exist, but I think for the majority, people choosing to shoot on film are seeking something more real, something more organic. And especially in a time like nowadays with AI and everybody using filters, everything's fake as fuck, let's be real. And you're allowed to do that with technology nowadays. So shooting on film is a very something that, it's raw, it's real. I mean, I think the movie The Batman, right? They shot The Batman on film, then they digitized it, then they turned around and put it back on film for the theatrical viewing. So wrap your mind around that for a minute. There's a certain kind of movement happening, right? I mean, you look at The Brutalist, shot on VistaVision, right? Or true VistaVision, not red digital, not digital VistaVision, like true VistaVision. Getting back to the Hitchcock days, right? There's a certain kind of movement happening right now where people are seeking more realness, more raw. And to me, nothing is going to give that to you like film. Because if you go to an art school, if you wanted a degree in photography, you would be required to take at least one class in analog photography, where they teach you how to develop your own black and white film and see the exposures come to life. That's required just to get your degree. I mean, at least the schools that I went to, so, I mean, there's something, you got to be aware that there's a certain amount of discipline that shooting on film teaches you. And that goes back to the Winogrand stuff, like the true artist knows how to put four corners around anything and make it interesting, and not just make it interesting, but Winogrand talks about how the image should be more dramatic than the actual event that you're photographing. It takes a lot of skill, right? And I think if you're out there just shooting digital, some of these cameras, they shoot like 60 frames a second, it's like, what are you doing? The amount of discipline that film teaches you is incredible to me. So if I was going to make a remark back to what they were saying about film being for privileged people, I think if you're shooting digital, you should feel privileged, right? Because you're the one relying on technology. You're the one getting advantage of autofocus and all the amazing bells and whistles. Guys shooting on film are doing everything manually, right? So if anybody is privileged in this scenario, it would be people using digital, right? In my opinion. I mean, especially if you're shooting on a rangefinder, you don't even get to see the depth of field. You don't even get to see what the lens is seeing. And that to me is incredible, right? That to me is really teaching you how to learn to be a skilled image maker. And again, that also ties back into Winogrand. He's always talking about don't let the technology influence you. And that's a big thing. And I mean, he was talking about this back when the prism finders were first being used on SLRs. So now think about the technology we have nowadays. So if anybody should be feeling privileged, it's the digital users. It doesn't make sense to me. There's a certain amount of extreme patience involved in, and just discipline, just straight up discipline that you acquire from shooting on film. I do want to make clear that I am in no way putting myself in the same category as Winogrand. I do not think of myself as a skilled image maker. I do not think of myself as a good photographer. Hell, I didn't even pick up a camera until 2017. So I am not speaking to you as someone that has put in his own 10,000 hours. However, I think that I'm still allowed to share my opinions on this stuff. It seems right now that people on YouTube want to act like you can't talk about the reality of a situation if you don't have the skill set to back it up. And I think that's bullshit. That in itself is an elitist comment. Just because if you're not a fan of someone else's work, that doesn't mean that they're not allowed to voice their opinion, or furthermore, that they're not allowed to hold the mirror up to society. So people want to talk about gatekeepers. That to me is gatekeeping, putting your own platform on this kind of elitist status as if what you're doing is so good. By the way, everything is subjective, certainly in our market of making images. So if one person could think I suck and they could turn around and think someone else thinks is awesome, then another person come around and think the exact opposite. Right? That's just the reality of what we do. A lot of people don't think Harmony Korine is that talented. Here I'm sitting around going, damn, Harmony Korine is one of my heroes. The whole reason I called my company DOGTIMES Productions is because I'm embracing the raw grittiness of what I do. I'm not trying to make everything I do be polished Hollywood look. I'm embracing a certain kind of grittiness. That's an aesthetic that I'm after. So just because you're not a fan of that doesn't mean that you're allowed to, say, oh, just because he sucks, I can't listen to anything he has to say. That's bullshit. That doesn't make sense at all. A lot of teachers, some of them can give you the best knowledge and give it to a really naturally born talented person, and he can walk away and really become the greatest artist because he was inspired by a teacher that wasn't able to create such good art, okay? So that's just some food for thought as well. I am not saying that I am a good image maker. I would never say that about myself. There's a whole reason my production company is called DOGTIMES Productions. If you know anything about Charles Bukowski, okay, that's where the title DOGTIMES comes from. He was not known for being a very pleasant human being. Or if you've ever seen the movie Dog Day Afternoon, or if anyone ever said, it's dog times, right? It's a certain aesthetic. Okay. So, I just want everyone to be aware that for people that aren't familiar with me, and they think like, oh, I'm being hoity-toity or whatever, and I suck. I understand I suck. I don't think I'm being hoity-toity. And I think that just because I suck, I am still allowed to have an opinion. That's the whole point of the world that we live in.
I mean, there's a reason why I don't go to Cine Gear. There's a reason why I don't go to NAB. I don't want to go do what the cool thing to do is. I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? I don't want to be around the cool kids. Never have wanted to do that and never will do that. I've been like that since I was a kid. It's the whole reason why I started skateboarding, because I get to do something that's all by myself. Individualism is so important to me. And I think that's honestly why a lot of people shoot on film too, because they want to find a way to differentiate themselves from the herd. As funny as it is, now film has become like this resurgence, a big kind of hipster thing. But I mean, if you think about it, that's what every hipster is trying to do. They're trying to differentiate themselves a little bit, and then they kind of all end up creating their own herd, but it is what it is. I mean, that's why I've never changed anything about myself. I mean, I still dress like I'm a teenage skate rat, because I don't know any better. I don't want to ever find myself in a situation where I end up looking like everyone else or trying to be like everyone else, and that's kind of a conundrum that we have in the YouTube community right now. Everybody is looking the same, sounding the same, they light the same way, and I kind of blame that on certain people that are making lighting tutorials and stuff. The only way that you really learn is just by doing it. Michael Jordan didn't become Michael Jordan by watching people play basketball and having someone dictate to him how he should play basketball. He just went and did it. I mean, it's just like anything else. You got to put in your 10,000 hours. And the whole point of me bringing up any of that is because film will teach you true discipline. In my opinion, film teaches you how to be a better image maker. I really believe that. And I think specifically the rangefinder, just the rangefinder camera teaches you how to be a better image maker because you can't see what the lens is seeing. So you have to understand how to start viewing the world and put corners around something. That's crazy. A good image maker doesn't need to have something perfectly lit to make it dramatic, right? They just need to be skilled at what they're doing with the composition and the intentionality behind what they're doing. And I think film is a great tool for that. Look at the film simulations, right? The Fuji thing, right? So it's like, okay, clearly, people want to be shooting on film. Right? They want that look, they want that aesthetic without having to go through the hard work of doing it, right? These cameras that have film simulations, they're all ones and zeros. There are autofocus and bells and whistles. It's not the same. You're not gonna. It's very hard to get an interesting photograph shooting on digital, in my opinion. In my opinion, it is, right? I mean, everybody knows how to play with a shutter wheel, but I'm just saying, sometimes you get these amazing, happy accidents with film. Not to mention, you get a lot of surprises with film. The surprises that you wouldn't. Now, on the flip side of that, you also get a lot of disappointments with film too, right? But to me, that's part of the adventure of it all. That's part of the excitement. And again, it's just a learning process that you wouldn't get by shooting on digital. I mean, if you think about the way a digital camera works, it's just scanning. It's just scanning the world. You're not actually making a true exposure. I don't understand. I don't agree with the idea of film shooters being privileged. That's crazy to me. Maybe I don't understand what they were trying to say with that, but that shit don't make sense to me. Again, only because it's harder. You can't knock first of all, you shouldn't knock someone for making a creative choice just because they're trying to learn something new or trying to stand out or whatever the case is. But also, I don't think it's a fair assessment when the digital people are the ones that, you guys are relying a lot on the machine versus a guy shooting on film. If you think about it, right? And there is the whole argument of, oh, you're just going to digitize it anyways. Yeah, but you still know. I mean, if you didn't know, people wouldn't be knocking down the doors for the film simulations. You know what I'm saying? Dehancer wouldn't be the program that it is if people didn't like looking at the way film looks, right? So again, it's I don't know. It's just an interesting argument.
Bring it! What?
Thank you. Thank you.
Some men aren't looking for anything logical, like money. They can't be bought, bullied, reasoned, or negotiated with. Some men just want to watch the world burn.